Hey everyone, it's Hannah, and today we have exciting news because we have 4 special guests in this video. The first guest is Veronica. She is a friend of ours, and the next 2 are Jonah and Noah, our youngest brothers, and then my mom, Kathy. So stay tuned to this video and enjoy.
Hi, I'm Veronica Mason, and I will be sharing with you the background to 1st and 2nd Corinthians. So, before we begin this whole Bible study on 2 Corinthians chapter 10, we need to look at the background of the letters to the Corinthians. The Apostle Paul wrote the letters, and the things that we need to look at is who exactly Paul wrote to and why he wrote to them. So, Paul wrote to the church at Corinth. This church was called out of a pagan and immoral culture. This was explained as a carnal church in a worldly city. Now, let's focus on that phrase for a moment, okay? So, carnal church in a worldly city. The 2 words that we need to focus on is carnal and worldly. So, let's focus on carnal, okay? Carnal means flesh. It comes from the Latin word carnalis, which is from another Latin word, caro. For me, I thought that was pretty interesting because it reminds me how much English actually relates to Latin and Greek. So, it all means flesh though, which means our mind, our soul, our feelings, our emotions, our heart, our mind, it all comes down to the flesh. And I think that's pretty important to remember throughout this Bible study. Now, worldly means temporal, or it means to enjoy this life's enjoyments or temporal distractions, basically. So now that we know what these 2 words mean, dictionary wise or literal wise, we can look at what the phrase means. So, worldly city is what we're going to look at first, and Corinth is indeed a worldly city. Was indeed a worldly city. It had a population of 7,000, and 5,000 of those were slaves. So that's kind of hard to think about. 3 slaves per 1,000, and then 2 slaves per another 1,000, approximately, at least. It's hard to imagine that most of the population were slaves. And Corinth became the pleasure center and idolatry worship center of the ancient world. And when it says the ancient world, it means the entire world. And to me, that's pretty sad, actually, to have such a worldly and sinful capital of the world. And at the center of the Corinthian life was a pagan temple, and this temple was the temple of Aphrodite, the goddess of fertility and sex. It had 1,000 ritual priestesses, or prostitutes, and every day people would just go in there and do their thing and come out. It was regular to the Corinthians. And in Plato's writings, a Corinthian girl became synonyms with prostitute. And to me, that is just so sad to think about. So, the Corinthian life was so worldly and so sinful that the term to Corinthianize meant to commit fornication. It was that bad. And that's very, very sad. So then we look at carnal church. The Corinthians have been saved from the world, but they hadn't gotten the world out of themselves. You may ask what this means. Well, what it means is they have accepted God but they haven't changed their ways, I guess, so to speak. So this church had former thieves, former drunkards, homosexuals, fornicators, idol worshippers, and all of these former sinners, but they didn't fix the problem. They didn't teach these people, God. They instead bragged about how they let these people into the church. And this is why Paul wrote these letters. So the first letter he wrote, everything he taught them in it was swayed by false teachers that came in after he was there and after he wrote the letter. So he sent Titus to turn them back to God, basically. To turn them back to the ways that he taught them originally. And so the second letter he wrote to write his thankfulness, to express his thankfulness to the majority that repented and to appeal to the rebellious minority. So there were still some Corinthians that followed these false teachers, that followed their old ways. And this is what we're studying 2 Corinthians 10, is because we can learn so much from it. It's writings that Paul wrote. We can apply them to ourselves as human beings that have sinned and that have come short of God. And this is why we look at the background. So that is the background to 1st and 2nd Corinthians. Thank you very much for hanging out with me in this small section, but important section. You guys enjoy the rest of the video.
Hey y'all, it's Rachel with Sisters in the Scriptures, and today I have my brother Jonah here with me, and we're going to be showing you how to verse map. Now, for those of you who know how to verse map, you'll probably already know what we're doing, but for those of you who don't know how to verse map, it's a good thing that you're watching this video, because you will learn how to take studying the Bible to the next level, like just from reading the Bible to actually like going in depth into a verse. It's just so amazing. It's definitely one of my favorite ways to study the Bible. So things that you're going to need for verse mapping is your Bible. So go ahead and already have a verse picked out. Today we're going to be doing 2 Corinthians 10, 4-6, if you just want to go ahead and do it with us, or you can pick your own verse. So then the next thing you're going to need is highlighters. It doesn't matter what kind, what color, just highlighters. Or you can use markers. It depends on what you're doing or what you have. Next thing you're going to need is a pen, because you're going to actually be writing a whole lot. But those are some things that you're going to need. Now, other things that you're going to need is a Strong's Concordance. Now, you can go ahead and already have this downloaded on your phone to make it way easier for you. Or if you have the book, go ahead and use the book. And then the Webster's Dictionary. Make sure it's the 1828 one, because it's the closest to the original and it doesn't have all the added stuff from other people. Okay, so now we are going to actually get into verse mapping. So step number 1 is to write your verse out. So whatever verse you're going to be doing, write it out. So like I said, we're doing 2 Corinthians 10, 4-6. Find your verse that you want to do. Doesn't have to be the same one as ours. But go ahead, pause this video, find the verse that you want to do. Okay, so after you have your verse written out, what you're going to do is take your highlighters, and you're going to want multiple different colors. You don't want to use the same color for each word, because that will end up messing you up,
because you won't know a word from a word. Like, you'll have the words all just highlighted the same, and you won't know what goes with what. So take a different color each word that you're going to be highlighting. Okay, so after you have written the verse down, take a highlighter. Like I said, do your different colors. Don't do all the same colors, and highlight the words that you want to look up or go more in depth to. So yeah, we're going to highlight. Now, if you're doing the same verse as us, you don't have to highlight the same words that we're highlighting, but just highlight ones that stick out to you. So the first one we highlighted was weapons. So next one we're going to highlight is warfare, because I'm reading this verse. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. So words that stood out to me were weapons, warfare, carnal, mighty through, pulling down, and strongholds. So we're going to be highlighting those. Okay, so for now, we are going to be using our Strong's Concordance on our tablet. And so I'm going to go to 2 Corinthians 10:4. Okay, so now that we have it, we are going to look up the word weapons. Now, it's definitely easier to use this electronically because you don't have to go through as much work, I guess, to actually find the meaning of a word. But, so, here is the word weapons in the Strong's. Now, one word that actually sticks out to me is armor. And that is, I think that's pretty cool, because another thing that we can think of is, what is our armor? So one thing that I can think of right now is the armor of God. So another study to do on your own time, go look up the armor of God. Go study in depth what the armor of God is. And that will actually help you in this verse realize what our armor or what our weapons are. So with this, you're gonna just write out what weapons means above it, or like the definition of the word above or beside or below, whatever you want to do, because we're going to end up highlighting the definition in the same color as we highlighted the word. Okay, so the meaning of warfare that we found was
to carry on continual wars, contest, struggle with spiritual enemies, to contend with carnal inclinations, fleshy will.
Carnal means fleshly, and inclinations mean your will or your mind. So over here, since we are showing you how to do this, by warfare, we are going to be writing out what that means to us. So we're going to just go ahead and write that out, and then we'll come back and show you what we do after this step. Okay, so while he is writing that out, I am going to be just explaining or telling you what this word means to me, or not this word, this verse means to me. Because when you're going into in-depth with a verse, the meaning of the words that you found is very important. But what are you going to take away from those? Are you just going to say, oh, I know what those words mean now, and then just leave it there? Or are you going to actually apply what the verse means when it's in-depth? So for the weapons, remember I said, is our armor. Our armor of our warfare. Now, our warfare, the main thing that I got from that was to contend with carnal inclinations, which carnal is fleshly, and inclinations is your will or your mind, and to contend means to fight against. So what we're fighting against, our will, our mind, we're fighting against those. They are not carnal. Carnal means fleshly, bodily, temporal. So our weapons are not fleshly, but they are mighty. Now, mighty means capable, able, possible, and strong. So they are mighty. But there's a very, very important word in here, and that word is through. And through really, really stuck out to me because it means to give self wholly to. And then there's another word after that. It's actually a name, and that is God. So the only way our weapons are not carnal, and the only way that they are mighty, is when we give ourselves wholly to, and we are allowing God to work through us. And when we are not living for ourselves, it's God. So the only way they can be mighty is through God. And a way of using our weapons is to the pulling down of strongholds. Now, pulling down means complete destruction. So you're completely destroying those strongholds. Now, strongholds means holding safely in a castle. Well, yeah, that would be strongholds. And then reign. Something that you are allowing to reign over you or reign in your body. Think of that. What are your strongholds? What are you allowing to reign in your body? And then something you're possessed with. What is something that really has a hold of your life that you're not willing to let go? Think about that. Write those down. And then reread this verse. Our weapons, our armor of God, are not fleshly, but mighty through God, who can pull those strongholds down. But we have to give ourselves wholly to Him first. So that is just verse 4. We will be going to verse 5 in just a sec. Okay, so this is honestly what it should look like. Yours will probably look different, but this is what it should be close to, is having the verse written down in the middle that you're going to verse map, and then all around it is going to be the definitions of each word that you looked up. So this is verse 4. Now we will be going to verse 5. Okay, so the words that we decided to look up were casting down, imaginations, every high thing, exalteth, against, knowledge, bringing, captivity, thought, and obedience. Now, you can go into way more detail with this, but those are the words that we went and looked up.
Casting down means take down, destroy, pull down. Imagination means conscience, thought, and every high thing means anything we put higher than God. Exalteth means lift up, to raise. Philippians 4:8.
What is Philippians 4:8?
What is it? Philippians 4:8 says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. So, against means not joined with. Then knowledge means knowing, to know, understand, a clear and certain perception of God. And bringing means bringing to. Into captivity means take captive, trap, and hold. Thought means intellect, disposition. The obedience means submission, attentive, hearken, and James 4:7 says, Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you.
Okay, so verse 5, and my observation of it would be to destroy all those thoughts, the wrong thoughts that are higher than knowing God or the knowledge of God. Cast those down and take captive every thought. Put those under the authority of God. If it's not under the authority of God, cast it down, cast it away. And just remember, the only way we could really do that is through God. So verse 4 and 5 go really good together, because verse 4 is basically telling you how you can do it. Verse 5 is telling you, cast those down, take those out of your life, bring everything that comes through your mind under the authority of God, submit to God, and like James 4:7 says, submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee. When you are being obedient to Christ and you are resisting the devil, he will flee. That isn't saying that he won't bring any more temptations or any more wrong thoughts, but what are you going to do with those thoughts the next time they come? Okay, so now we have verse 4 and 5 done. We're going to go on to verse 6. So, the words that really stuck out to me were readiness, revenge, disobedience, obedience, and fulfilled. So, like I said, please do not highlight every word that we did just because we did it. Do it with the words that you want to look up. Allow God to speak to you, and just highlight the words that you think that you need to learn more on. Okay, so in verse 6, what my observation was is that be ready to fight against disobedience. Be ready to use your weapons against those sins that are coming back. Like it could be your thoughts or something that you're doing that's not very good, disobedience. Anything that is breaking God's law, anything that is against God, anything that is against the knowledge of God or knowing God, be ready to punish that. Be ready to fight against that. All disobedience, when your obedience is fulfilled. So you can only do that when you are submissive, when you are using your weapons in the right way, when you are allowing God to work through you. Be ready to do that. But you can only do that when you are completely obedient and completely wholly yielding yourself to God. So that is 2 Corinthians 10, 4-6. I really hope you enjoyed coming with us and learning how to verse map. Now, if you didn't get everything that you wanted on instructions on how to verse map, please let us know, and we will try to go more in depth. But I hope this video helps you learning how to verse map, but also on using your weapons correctly, or knowing how to use those. I pray that this will not only stop here, but that you will apply it. I'm still working on applying it. It's not easy, but remember, guys, to completely yield yourself to God. Give yourself wholly to God, and He will work through you. He will not turn an ear away from someone who is trying to fully yield themselves to the Lord. So I pray this helps you, and God bless.